Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov Chess Channel and welcome to the derby of the Superbet Chess Classic in Romania. We have here the epic battle between Magnus Carlsen's successors. We have here the battle between Alireza Firouzja and Liren. And I'm saying that these two guys are Magnus Carlsen's successor because Liren already is. He is now the world champion in chess, but I still think that Alireza has so many things to say in the chess community. Many players have said to me also, and I was the same thinking too, that Alireza was supposed to be the next world champion after Magnus Carlsen. I really thought that maybe Alireza was the guy that could dethrone maybe Magnus Carlsen in 5-10 years or something, but now Liren is the world champion. I still think that Alireza has, as I said, so many things to say because he is still so young. His attacking style is brilliant. He has surprising elements in the opening stage, so let's see now what happened. Incredible game it was in the Superbet Romania Chess Classic. So here Alireza with the white pieces open with the move e4. We have e5 by Ding, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5. The Ruy Lopez, the Spanish game, is on the board. Knight to f6. We have the Berlin defense, so one of the most solid openings against the Spanish opening. We have now the move d3. Now, of course, the bishop comes out on an active square on c5. We have here the c3 by Alireza Firouzja with the preparation to break and enter with the move d4. Kingside casting, and now d5. Knight to d2, connecting now the knight to the square e4. In the game, we have now d takes e4, and after d takes e4, we have reached now a symmetrical position where we have now 3 pawns on the queen side and 4 pawns on the king side. So far, nothing dramatic is going on, and whenever you have this kind of a symmetrical pawn structure, I think we should evaluate almost the bishops equal to knights, because the knights are also powerful in these types of positions. The knights have always good squares on d5, f4, f5. These are the targets that we want to attack with our knights. So in my opinion, both minor pieces are good now, the bishops, but also the knights. So in the game a5, here you see there is now maybe the possibility to play this kind of a line, bishop to c6, and this move has been played many times in chess history, and it's tempting, but actually this move bishop to c6 and Alireza didn't play it leads into a 2 drawish line. For instance, after bishop to c6, it's tempting, of course, after b takes c6 to pick up now the knight, the pawn on e5 with the knight, but now after rook to e8 you can even attack the bishop to d6. So as I said, I'm just showing you really a very popular line. After bishop to d6, now white grabs another pawn, attacks even the queen, but now after queen to d7, e5, a queen to c6, after a couple more moves, look at this, the game transposes now into an opposite color bishop's endgame, and in the next couple of moves I think also white could have problems here around the square b2, especially after move rook to b8, and in my opinion this line is not so dangerous to handle here for black. So as I said, you can take out here the knight on c6, and you can take out the pawn on e5, but it leads simply into 2 simplified positions, so you not gain the position that you would love to. So that's why Alireza knows, of course, his stuff. He doesn't want to simplify the game too much in the early stage of the game, so that's why he plays queen to c2, queen to e7 now by Ding, now bishop to c6 with knight to e5. Of course, it's not a threat anymore. a4, we have now knight to b8. It seems also strange that you're retreating now with the knight, but now, of course, bishop to c6 is always a positional threat that you could have a double pawn structure. Now with the move c6, in the next move the bishop will be kicked away, and the knight could maybe get to d7, maybe then afterwards to f8, g6, f4. So this would be sort of a path here by the knight on b8. So in the game h3, we have rook to d8 by Ding. We have bishop to e2, knight to d7, rook to e1. So you see both players are targeting now the weaknesses in position that I've talked about in the beginning. So the weak square on f5. From black's perspective, we're targeting, of course, here the weak square on f4. So you see, Ding does the same. Knight to g6, knight to f4 is now the route to get the knight on a better square. So knight to b3 by Alireza, attacking the bishop to b6, and now knight to d2 with the preparation to play knight to c4 and even further chase away this very unpleasant bishop here on this long diagonal, because the bishop is hitting the weak pawn on f2. So bishop to e6, knight to c4, and here bishop to c4. As I said, we have a symmetrical pawn structure. 3 pawns on the queen side, 4 pawns on the king side. The bishops are great here. I'm not saying they're not good, but it's not so important, I think, to have the bishop pair here. It's not one of these wild open games where the pawn structure is asymmetrical, where we have maybe even dynamics in the center of the board, then the bishops are cross-firing all over the board. This is not this kind of a position. I think you see how Ding has also great chances to get activities with their knight, especially on the square f4, as I said. Now, even if we play knight to f4, after bishop to f4, e takes f4, again, the position leads in opposite color bishops, endgame or middle game. You can call it whatever you like, but a further trades of pieces could even reach a 2-2 drawish position for white. So that's why, as I said, I love my knight here also with the black pieces. So nothing wrong that Ding gave up his bishop in an early stage for the knight. So now, after move knight to e6, we have now the move g3. Alireza has to prevent this knight to come on on f4. If that happens, as we said, you will probably give up your beautiful bishop pair again for knight. So in the game, h5. Good move here by Ding. He's trying now to get here h4. If played g4, then again he has access to the f4 square. So that's why king to g2. Alireza connects now the king to the pawn on g3. h4 anyway, here played by Ding. As I said, if you play g4, the knight to f4 in some of these lines could be a possibility. Maybe not immediately, because bishop to f4, e takes f4, e5 is now a huge threat. But in the next couple of moves, when we regroup, when we get our pieces more active, then the weak square in f4 it could cause you really the whole game. So I really don't like here also the dark square problems that you have in front of the king. So after move h4, that's why Alireza gets more the pieces towards the queen side, because in some of these lines, if you don't play queen to e2, then also this knight could come into the game on h5. Then there are maybe even some tactics with knight to f4, then followed with knight to f4. So this could be devastating. So that's why queen to e2, very important not to allow this knight to get on an active square in h5. g6 played by Ding. He's now trying to get the king also a little bit more improved here on g7, and also get out of this annoying light square bishop activity, because the light square bishop is of course targeting indirectly, of course, the king on g8, but if something clears, then the king could be really in danger. Knight to d2, knight to c5, attacking now the pawn twice. Good move again by Ding, because he's not allowing here Alireza Firouzja to develop the dark square bishop on g5. But now Alireza makes a huge decision. He plays now a brilliant move, in my opinion, knight to f3. This move is creating opportunities for the bishop here. As we said, the pawn structure is simply too symmetrical. The pawn structure is not getting anywhere. That's of course not good for the bishop here. Now after move knight to f3, this is getting really heated already, because now Alireza, after h takes g3, f takes g3, and knight to e4, created at least an unbalanced, an asymmetrical pawn structure, which is again beautiful for the bishops. You are up a pawn here with the black pieces, but now the bishops really make sense. It's a different story now. I think we can feel really now the tensions on the board. Of course, you have to now prove your point that you gave up a pawn, but I think with this beautiful activity, especially when the bishop comes here somewhere on h6, you could have even dark square problems. Although you have the dark square bishop on the board, but the dark square bishop is simply too far away from the action. So I think it was a brilliant choice by Alireza, but he made now already mistake with the move knight to g5, and he tried desperately now to get the bishop somehow on g5 and pin the knight on f6, but this was not the way to go. After move knight to e4 that Ding played, he should have simply continued to activate his pieces. There is even maybe the route to play something like, I don't know, knight to h4, maybe even hit the pawn on g6. If queen to c5 happens, then we can play rook to f1. Look at this, the files are opened. As we said, the bishops are breathing again, and now the f7 is a vulnerable square. Black needs not to play something like rook to d7. Look at this, we play g4, you play queen to d6, we attack further the dark squares. We can, in the next couple of moves, we maybe play g5, knight to g5, but suddenly we are playing again. This move, knight to g5, is attacking also the pawn on f7, but Ding defends it very easily with this move knight to d6, and is still attacking the bishop on c4. You have to step back to a2, and now Ding plays on his main strength. You had your chance to activate your pieces. Now Ding is saying no more chances for you here. I will push my pawn to e4 and there's nothing that you can do against it. I will get my activity. I have now an extra pawn and now I'm supporting it and I'll just push it further, and there's simply not so much that can be done. And Alireza makes even another mistake. He plays now the move h4 here. Not a good move. Alireza is trying, of course, to get some activities with his pieces, but a better way to go, and that was his last chance to play this move, was to play the move bishop to f4. If you play here e4, then bishop to d6, of course, comes with a beautiful attacking. Then there are possibilities around the square f7. But in order to stay in the game here, actually, knight to h5 can be black's counterattack. If you play, of course, here something like around the square f7, this is protected. If you play something like this, then the pawn is hanging, the knight is hanging here on g5. So again, black could have chances here to defend its position. But now the game continues. After move knight to h5, rook from a to d1, and both players have some chances. Maybe you can play something like knight to f4, g takes f4, king to g7, and now after a couple of trades of pieces, again, I think the position would be simplified enough, and again, it would be a drawish position. But Alireza, instead of this move bishop to f4, played the move h4, and Ding takes over. He plays now king to g7, rook to f1, and now rook to d8. Good move, including more pieces into the game. This is the way to go. This is really healthy chess, as I would like to say. Bishop to d2, and now e4, and black is taking over. Now Ding will just push the pawn further, and there's nothing that white can do against this idea. You see the storm is coming, but you cannot hide anywhere. So this is now the way to go. e4, good move here by Ding. Bishop to f4. Alireza is trying now to get somehow maybe bishop takes d6 and then knight to f7. Here Ding continues with the pressure with the move e3. We have rook from a to d1, and now comes the wildest moment, the critical moment of the game. Here Ding doesn't react correctly. What would you do? Would you play rook knight from d to e4 or knight from f to e4? What would you do here with the black pieces? Okay, take your time. It's really tough. I think 19% of players would mess this up. This is really an epic story of this game. Okay. Here Ding should have played knight from d to e4. Really wild stuff, because if you play now knight to f7, we can do this kind of line. Rook to d1, rook to d1. Now the knight comes here on f2. You have again to step back with the rook. Rook to e1 you can play, but now a brilliant move is here. Queen to d7. We are threatening queen to h3. You have to get your knight back on here to e5. If you play, then queen to h3 is happening. If you play knight to g5, then knight to d3 attacks the rook again. And look at this. This is simply too much to handle here. I think you have some worries around the square e6, but this pawn is really annoying. You play queen to f1, queen to c6, again a check you have to cover. So in my opinion, simply a one-way ticket here in black's favor. So you see the pawn on e3 is causing still many positional problems in white game. But in the game, Ding played knight from f to e4. He tried to defend his pawn on f7 desperately, but you don't have to defend in this way. Here Alireza immediately takes the chance. Now we have here knight to d6, bishop to f7, knight to f7, rook to f7, queen to f7, now knight to f7, rook to d1. Everything is pretty much forced. After queen to d1, you cannot play even e2 here. That's not possible, because the winning move is actually here. A brilliant queen to d7. I think Alireza would find this move immediately, because whatever you do, if you play, for instance, king to f6, then you can play, of course, queen to e8 immediately. If you play something like e1, the promotion, then the winning move is a brilliant knight to e5. This would be really epic, because look at this. After king to f6, you get even checkmated. If you step back here on h6, then again a check. You can maybe go here, but after queen to h7, king to g4, queen to g6 is even a wild checkmate. So you see, after move queen to d1, there's simply no time to push the pawn on e2, because queen to d7 is winning the game. So after move queen to d1, so that's why Ding played king to f7, queen to e2. We have now king to e7. This was again another mistake here by Ding. He should have probably played on a blockade, on a sort of fortress idea to make somehow a draw. You have to stay with your king here on the king side, trying to paralyze somehow the king side, because after king to f1 you can play rook to e5, after something like king to e2, bishop to c5, b3 and b6. You should now regroup, keep your pieces really compact, keep everything glued together, and not allow here some progress on the g file. But with the move king to e7, you're getting too far away from the action. Now Alireza has some time to get back. Now after rook to f2, now Alireza is attacking the g4 pawn. You have to now get your king on f6 here, but now queen to g5. Look at this, after a couple of checks, Alireza is creating here a pass pawn. That's now the way to go, and you can really never do something just only with the pawn, with the rook, and with the bishop, without the support of the queen, and even if without the support of the king, pardon me, and even if you include the king into the game, then you're always vulnerable to some checks. But Alireza will eventually create a passer here on the h file, or maybe on the g file. Rook to b2, Alireza pushed the pawn further, here check. After a couple of checks, here we have two connected passers, so it's again game over. King to e5, again a check. G6, we have here check, again a check. Rook to d2, king to c4, rook to g2, and here after queen to f7, in this position, Ding Liren resigns. So let's see possible continuation. You play something like king to g3, we push the pawn further. You can maybe take out this one, but now again the king gets closer. Even if you get your rook into the game, you can maybe start to push the pawn. But look at this, with queen to f4, for instance, we will eventually grab the rook, we will stop the progress of this pawn, we will get another queen. You can do many things, but the game is eventually over. So really wild stuff. What to say? Ding had some chances, but Alireza, I think, spiced up the game enough for Ding, because that's simply Alireza's style. He can make mistakes, but the answers, the solutions to the position are really hard to find. That's Alireza's style. Maybe it's not the best style, but it's an aggressive, complicated style that we love to see, I think, in classical chess, that we miss sometimes, because this was a game of many opportunities. The games that I hate the most, I think, are the games without any opportunities. So I think we have seen opportunities for Ding, opportunities for Alireza. Incredible game of the Berlin defense. So with this game, Alireza changed also the current standings of the rating list. Now look at this, Nepo lost his game today, and now Alireza Firouzja is the number 2 in the world again. And as I said, the World Chess Championship is something, but being for a long time maybe the number 1 or maybe even the number 2 is really something else, in my honest opinion. When I would be asked, okay, it's a matter of life and death, and who should play the game for you, but it's not Magnus Carlsen. You know who would I say? I would always say Fabiano Caruana. For me, Fabiano Caruana was always somehow the number 2 in the world. Although he is now on the 6th place, but now Fabi is playing great chess. He's in the lead of this Superbet chess event. He gained 9 points, and he's only, 15 rating points behind Alireza Firouzja. But as I said, when someone would ask me who is in your opinion the real number 2, I would always say it's Fabiano Caruana. Magnus is the undisputed king. I think he is the number 1, although he's not maybe the world champion. And it will stay for a long time now. Maybe if Magnus really loses his motivations for chess, for sure, then maybe we'll see a different rating list. But in my opinion, Fabi is the number 2. That's just my opinion. I hope you can agree with me. Although you see this ratings are changing, but Fabi is playing great chess again. He's finding good ideas. So we'll see now what happened, because I think this rating list will be mixed up after a couple more rounds. Maybe Alireza will be number 3, Ding even number 5, maybe Caruana will not be number 2, who knows. But this will be one of the most beautiful chess event so far in this year. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting and cool ideas. First, the pawn sacrifice, creating dynamics. Then we have seen wild tactical sequences. If you want to see more Alireza Firouzja games and also some other commented chess games, check out our coverage. Here's the link of our whole playlist. And if you like this content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos and what to say. Chess is the best, of course.